She's Trixie, and I'm Sara, and this is our Yarn World, a place where we come to share the love of yarn crafts and most fabric yarn crafting, and how we don't have a lot of people
to talk about that with.
In our corner of the earth to talk about it with. We only have a couple of people that can really appreciate it, and so finding this chapter or this corner of YouTube that actually has allowed us to have a place to be able to share it with you. We hope that it speaks to you and your ability to fellowship with people, because this community has helped us a great deal to be able to feel like we are a part of something that is greater than ourselves and is very much celebrated, even if it's not a tradition in our area.
And we really love all the comments and the encouragement that we're getting from you guys.
Our a little old, I don't know what we're gonna call it, but it's just a really nice community of people that we're learning to become friends with one another. Our channel is small, and if it remains small, that's good. If you grow, that's amazing. We're doing this for ourselves just as much as we want to be able to fellowship with all of you.
Right.
But as it is, Mom mentioned this, it's February 2nd, 2022, so 2222.
Yeah.
And
it would have been better yesterday when it was Tuesday, but today is Wednesday. I just thought that was funny.
Dad joke, mom joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it just hit me yesterday. Oh man, we were off by one day. It would have been so nice to have the 2nd of February be on a Tuesday.
Honestly, and in 2022, it just,
but that's okay. It all works out.
It's snowing here in Michigan. I don't know where any of you guys are, but we have some nice hot cocoa that we're drinking right now as we're getting ready to talk to you about our projects this week. We hope that you've had a good, productive week so far, and we're excited to hear what you guys have been doing. But my mom, as always, is already done with another blanket.
I started it last week and finished it last night.
You make blankets as fast as Stephanie reads books. She read over like 10 books this month.
Wow. I only made 4 blankets this month. I didn't read 10 books.
Yeah, but there's 4 weeks. You get them done in an average of a week.
Yeah.
There's just days she just reads a book.
Wow.
That's a friend of mine. I'm sorry. It's just how fast her reading capacity is. It's not that big of a deal, but
I listened to the Lord last week, and I was able to get out whites and blacks and a couple of gray that I had and some creams, and I made the blanket out of that. And I just want to mention one little fact. Last week I wrote out the description in the description the pattern for this this Lapghan, and it is in the description area, and it will remain there. I will put it there every week. If you guys want to do it along with me, make a Lapghan, it's all right there. And I just want to share what I do with you guys, and that was the furthering of that. Although I have talked about it before, now it is in written form. So just to let you know that. So I started out with black and gray, and then went into the white, or the cream and black. So it's got black all the way through it, and then black and white, back into a little bit of the cream, and down into the black and gray again. And I think this one should go to you, my darling.
Me?
Yes.
I thought you were making them for Ian.
And I decided that one decided to go to you.
I'm so happy.
She wanted it. I knew she did. As soon as she saw it last time she was here, she's like, "Oh, I really like that one."
Yay! That made me really happy. Thank you. I was so sad to see this one go to someone I'm not going to be able to see ever because they live on the other side, outside of the state. Thank you, Mom.
Yeah.
My goodness.
My daughter is really into black and white, so it's kind of her.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have noticed. I don't like color. It's just not in my religion.
That's funny.
Okay, listen. Just so that doesn't come off as any sort of racial thing, I'm just saying I am not a very colorful, innate person in general. When I was a kid, I used to really like color. I grew out of it in my teenage years, and since then, I've just been much more of a darker, in the darker scheme of colors. Like if I like a dark color, it's gonna be a darker blue, or it's gonna be a dark brown, or it's gonna be. It's just, I like the richness of darker colors, and because I don't tend to find colors in that palette enough, besides being in like a black, gray, or white being the complementary color that I prefer the most with black or gray, I stick to that palette a lot. So most everything that I own has black and white in it. But yeah, thanks, Mom. I'm really excited. I was so sad. I was actually going to tell you that I was going to actually order a blanket from you when you were going to put that one away. Yep. But no, me saying that joke was no racial slur. It's not that I see color at all in that aspect. I'm just saying I'm just saying a joke of myself. It's just not something that not that I don't believe in, but I just don't take. I take comfort. It's my comfort colors are darker colors, and the darkest color is black.
Yeah.
My daughter loves pink, and almost anything with a shade of pink in it is a comfort for her, because she finds that she
claims it.
Yeah. I'm not saying I claim the color black, but I gravitate towards it.
Yeah.
And so it just takes me off the color wheel, and I get joked about it all the time. I actually scared a friend of mine the other day because I wear black all the time.
Right.
And I came up behind him, and he didn't realize I was in the basement.
Oh.
And he almost punched me because he thought that I.
Oh no.
He wasn't doing it out of being mean or rude or anything. I just startled him. I startled him, and he just in his head he's like, "Robbers wear black."
Right.
I'm only seeing a black figure in my offsite.
Right.
It doesn't look like the people that I'm consciously thinking about. You're good. But, yep. Right now, Mom is rolling up balls of yarn for her next blanket. So while she does that, I will do more of a show and tell for my the blanket I've been doing for my husband's mother. They've been sitting in a bag. They are completely blocked and bordered. They've just been sitting folded for most of the week. But this is what the finished product of them look like.
Isn't it
the
pretty?
Ones that I have done so far.
I do like it.
And I really like the pattern. I really like how they're coming out.
Yeah.
I have 3 of these. So I have another full one done right here, and another full one done right here. Done. And
done and bordered.
Done and bordered. Now these were the 3 that when I did them, I was talking about last week. It was almost necessary to border them instead of just stitching them together right from the get-go, just because right from blocking them, because I did not have a clean finished edge. And I had just learned in the process of making these and doing another knitted project, I had learned how to make a cleaner edge that I had not known it wasn't in my knitting repertoire before now.
And it squared them up really nicely.
Yeah. The crocheting around these allowed them to go from a much more weighted oblong diamond shape to a square as they are supposed to come out.
Yeah.
That was because I did not know how to make their sides clean, because pretty much the pattern is, and I'm going to use this one as an example. This is the one I did a better finished edge with, but see, I don't have it bordered, and it turned out so much more square.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go. It doesn't have the silver on the edge yet. I plan on still doing that, but it's, after blocking it, this thing is like almost perfectly square from doing a proper edge. What would you know? You know, if you know how to do your craft well, you're not going to have as hard of a time getting what you're asking for.
Right.
But it's pretty much, you're doing a decrease every other row, right in the smack middle, and it's causing it to have a bit of a mitered shape.
Yes.
That's what I think it's called, the mitered square.
Yeah.
But it's done in knit form, and so you can see the line where the decrease is, but honestly I think it kind of gives it a really cool
effect. It really does.
I don't think it needs to be subtle, just because I don't know, I think the ombre really worked well for this project. But I still plan on bordering this one, of course, but having a cleaner edge, I don't know if it's going to show really well, because maybe I'll do it on a different, having this cleaner edge right there, this cleaner edge has definitely done better on my knitted pieces so far since I started to do it.
It really looks like a stairwell too. The color name is stairwell, and when she held it up like that, it kind of looked like you were looking down into a stairwell that was just winding. Yeah,
it's a very unique combination of warmer colors while still having the traditional dark charcoal that is normally, this is more of a it's coming off brown, but this is actually, I think it's just because of the camera, but there you go. This is much more of a charcoal color right here. I find that warmer colors do not pair well traditionally with more black and white colors. Normally that's its own color wheel.
Right.
But this does it well.
It flows well.
It feels like it's not trying.
Right.
It feels like it's natural, which most ombres should be.
Yeah.
They should not look like they're being forced together. These do not look like they're being forced together, and I like that. So only 4 are completed. It takes about 1 2/3, 3/4 of a each cake, or whatever you want to call them, of yarn, Lion Brand yarn of this, to finish a square. I would like to make it a 3x4 blanket, so I have 4 completed, and these are being blocked at a 17 by 17 inch.
That's quite large.
Yeah, so it's gonna be decent.
Yeah.
It's just that with an average of roughly, if you wanted to round up, 2 skeins of yarn per block, and it takes the bordering, the silver yarn. I got all 3 of those done on one, and this is what's left of it. So it's like I need 3 more of those, and then 2 things of yarn for the remainder. So it would be 8 more of those and they're just not. They're not.
No, you would need
8.
8 would make
12.
No, 8 would make.
I saw 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking only 4 more.
Only 4 more. I only have 4. If I only have 4 more, we're gonna make 8.
I know.
As a solid, and we're making 12.
I know.
That's what I'm hoping to do. I still have to ask my mother-in-law what she wants. But that's so far what's in my head. And so that's a total of, I have to get like 11 more skeins of yarn total to at least get this portion of the blanket done on top of bordering.
That's where I was getting confused.
And so my mom is such a hustler, and she buys a whole bunch of yarn at used goods stores, like Goodwill's, thrift stores, like Salvation Armies and stuff. And she's able to make all these scrappy blankets off of that, which means that she's not buying yarn at full price, which is awesome and it works. But for the blanket that I'm making here, I have to buy this yarn, and so I have to buy it at full price, and it's gonna be expensive.
Right.
And you never think about how much a blanket's gonna be when you start off, and that's kind of where, like, the first thing I told James and his mom was, you realize how expensive this blanket's going to be if you're really insistent on it being this yarn. Even if the yarn was cheap, that still means I have to buy enough of it because it only comes in so much at a time.
But she should be able to reimburse.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she's more than willing to. She's the one who ordered it.
And when I go to the thrift stores, I'm getting full skeins when I go. And that's why I'm able to make all these scrappy blankets so nice, is because I'm able to find these at, really reasonable prices. So,
So that's my progress with that. The only other progress I made this week, I would say that that's good progress. I'm not saying that's really bad, because I didn't even have that fourth block done when last week, or even started. So that block is done and has been blocked. So. And for if the person that commented last week or last couple of weeks did see my reply on the blocking question, pretty much the best I know about blocking is what it does is it causes the yarn to settle into the position in which it's now been conformed into, and it allows it to then settle and be less movable, because it's almost like
it relaxes it.
It relaxes it. It's similar to me as when you sew fabric together, but when you press the seam, all of a sudden it's like, this is my life now.
Yeah.
You could seam rip it before you have ironed it, and it still could be used for something else. Yeah. But the moment that you press that seam, even if you seam rip it, it's always going to have that crease.
Yeah.
And blocked yarn tends to have that same thing. It is now identified to the design in which you have put it. Yarn that you have to frog at times, as long as it hasn't been wet, is much more likely to be easier used or applied to a different thing than a blocked yarn. Not that it's impossible, it's not the same material or the same format, but that's kind of the way that I have understood blocking and its benefits. When it comes to washing blocked materials after you have blocked them, like in the washer and dryer, blankets in and of a whole generally have to be washed in a wash on like a delicate cycle based off of what it has already said is in the instructions for the materials in and of itself. I say laying flat to dry or on a very, very delicate cycle is going to be the best thing you can do for any homemade project, from what I understand when it comes to yarn. Not impossible to use it, but you're just going to want everything to be on a gentle cycle.
Yeah.
And you're going to want it to be paired with either like-minded handmade stuff or towels. Something that it's not going to be with something with a zipper or something with buttons that it could snag it, because it's still going to be possible of snagging. Even machine knitted wares from the store can get snagged. You just want to be careful, like any other material, to have it be washed properly, and you'll get the longest use out of it.
Right.
I'm not a professional at this. This is just what I know from my history, but there are a lot of good videos on this side of YouTube that will go into more depth about blocking. That's where I've been going to get my information.
Oh yeah.
So mine was actually a Russian lady, and she was, you could tell she had been doing it for a very long time. Like her skills.
Russia's cold. She probably does this A lot.
But she was blocking a sleeve for a wearable, and it was just very interesting how she's just like, you don't have to use blocking block like mats where you have to buy them and they're kind of like puzzle pieces. I bought those just because I want to block it to size.
Right.
And so it already had the measurements and it was already performed, ready for being wet on and stuff.
Right. And you pin it down.
Right. But she's just like, you can just lay out a towel, and as long as you stretch out the material. The practice of doing the blocking that I found was a very interesting exercise, was learning how to stretch the yarn while it's wet.
Yeah.
Stretch what you've thus made to help the yarn settle
Right.
into its position so that it could dry in that way. It was very interesting to watch the yarn relax when you're pulling on it, but you have to be so good, like very gentle and methodical about it, and like a back and forth motion. So I would definitely look up other videos. I just wanted to kind of say that before I forgot. The other project I've been working on and off when I can is been the hat that I had to be ordered, and I'd say I definitely made some progress on it. Not as much as I would have hoped, but I am knitting in circular needles in the round 100 stitches cast on for a 4-weight yarn on 5mm needles, and I'm doing this for an adult male's head, and it's supposed to be double thickness, so I will be making this a very long tube and have it folding it in on itself and then scrunching it at the top. So that's the design, and I will update you when I can on that. The only other thing I wanted to let you guys know about was I just had a bit of a show and tell. My mom gave me these.
I found them at the thrift shops.
Yeah, so like
So I did not pay
said,
full price.
Okay, so this one can
But
be
they
separated.
were all in, most of them were in packages.
Yeah, so she bought only 3, 4. Sorry, I got lost in my thoughts. No, we're good.
3mm.
No. I was just making sure was there supposed to be 4 because they were poking out of the end. Okay. I do have a brain, I promise. My mom gave me all of the knitting things that she's been collecting from stores. She collects not only knitting stuff, but she normally collects some sewing stuff, but mostly crochet.
Yeah.
But she has been, when she sees a good deal, and most of these are in like full packages of knitting stuff, she's been picking them up as well. And she was considering trying to learn how to knit herself, but realizing how much she prefers crochet, has just stuck with that, and so she's been giving them to me, and she gave them to me in a bag, and I was really grateful. I'm going to start off with this. This was, these are bamboo wood double pointed knitting needles. I do believe these are meant directly for traditionally socks.
Yeah.
And there are 3.24
25.
sorry, my bad, 3.25 millimeter or a number 3, and she found 2 identical pairs, so this probably came from the same person to have like 2 socks made at the same time, maybe. This, is there just 2 in there? Was there meant to be 2 in there?
I don't know.
Some of these are really old, so I can't tell. Like this almost seems like this pouch, because it does have a natural zipper opener. This might be a store like a Goodwill or whatever, a secondhand store product where they put stuff in Ziploc bags to make it concise.
Right.
But regardless, these are supposed to be Boyd circular needles. They look like they're supposed to be a US size 15 or 10 millimeter, but it looks like there's two of them in there, and I'm not quite sure whether the same size. It almost looks like one of them is a bigger size than the other. I'll have to check and size them and see what they are, but they definitely look like they're good, decent shape. Not really, there's wear on the tips, but they don't look that bent in. The plastic circular strand does not look like it's too warped or anything. So that was a good snag. And we also got these ones. These are very small needles. Again, in the circular, they are the Haya brand. I've never really heard of this, but it is, dear Lord,
I don't know the
size. They are very tiny. I don't know exactly, because the strand for the length of these needles and the length of the circular plastic section is a rather decent. Yeah, this is, I'm guessing this is for a hat, like a really, possibly like a
there was patterns for a hat on the bottom.
Yeah, I saw that in the back. What I'm saying is, like, it almost reminds me of a knitting needles that were designed for much more of Norwegian knitting.
Right.
So like the really
The color works
and the really intense, more intricate mitten patterns and stuff.
Yes.
These might be for that. I'm not quite sure. These also she found in bags, in their own appropriate bags she found. These are all Clover wooden circular needles. So that's awesome. They're made out of bamboo. There is a 9 millimeter or a size 13. In the round again, same company, same materials, a number 10, size 6 millimeter, and then a size number 11, 8 millimeter. And that's just, I use this stuff so often that it's just like, this is so nice. This is a 6.5 milliliter or a 10.5. What? I needed this the other day for something, another project I was doing. I couldn't find this in stores anywhere.
And you had it.
Well, you haven't given it to me. But this is another Clover set. Just does not have a bag. Circular bamboo. And again, I just told you the size. Really good shape, very smooth. The tips are not worn that much. Another set of these small needles was in the bag as well, at the bottom of the bag that my mom packed everything in. So this is,
there was
like,
no packaging for those.
Yeah, but it's the same as like these Haya ones. It's like the same thing. Wow. I'm guessing they're similar, but these definitely look much more worn.
Right.
Whoever these belong to definitely had used them. And then she got me some straight needles. These are size 15 needles at like maybe a foot length, and they are a full pair, which is awesome. Sometimes you don't always get them in full pairs. And then these are about like a 18-inch needle, straight line needles. There are a boy needle size 13 USA, so that's awesome. And I did buy on my own this week these boy needles. I love boy aluminum needles. They're my favorite. I just need more US 8 or 5 millimeter size circulars, because I've been having so many projects on these. I can't keep swapping them out or like putting my work on yarn to keep switching them out. So I just bought more of these because I have so many works in progress from last week. If you watched my video last week, I showed all the things I am consistently working on right now, but this is just an update of what I had. And I also bought a US crochet 5mm for crochet. Boy, I just don't have it, but it's when it comes to crochet, they don't do US 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They do the alphabet with crochet. Yeah. So it would be a US 8 but still 5mm. And Boy always does theirs color coded, and so it would be another yellow gold color as well for the crochet hook. I just didn't bring that one with me. But yeah, I don't know. I've been having, I use size 5mm so regularly because of the yarn that I always am working with. So it's just good for me to have multiple of that. And my favorite brand being the aluminum Boy
one piece crochet hook.
Yeah.
I like the one piece crochet hooks myself. I have tried the others, but they seem to get sticky for me, and I don't like the stickiness or the feel of sticky handles, and so I end up going back to the metal ones, and it's just much easier for me.
Yeah, they get sticky, or they wear, or they feel like they're melting or something. Yeah. I've always preferred the solids. I think that there's a benefit and a market for the thicker handled ones, just for people with arthritis or something that they needed a heftier grip. I've just been so used to using something as thin as a pencil or a pen for so long that that's where my grip, my tension is better used at that.
Yeah. And I use a 10mm hook just because using double strands, it just makes my life easier.
I would like to mention, just so you know, I love this little thing.
The little toolkit?
Yeah, it's my favorite thing. I bought this thing at a Hobby Lobby. And it was like a little toolkit that you could put in your bag for crafting with knitting, and I'm going to say ultimately crochet because I'm going to be showing you. I have different styles of stitch markers, a tape measure. I have a charm in here for a fancy stitch marker if I wanted it. I have some placeholders for some of my knitting, like stitch holders, different types of stitch holders in here. But I also have these. Now these are very small versions of crochet hooks, and I have this size at a 5mm, and the other one I want to say is like a 3.25mm version of the same thing. It might be smaller, but these are used for knitting a lot. This whole tackle box is really more of a knitting tackle box, but I like it because I can use it for other things. But what this is designed for, and I think most knitters really could benefit from this, is that if anyone has ever knitted for a long time, if you accidentally drop a stitch, that whole entire row of stitching is a straight line down, and it will cause like this huge rivet in your stitch. Whereas this, you can go in and stitch all the way back up.
Oh wow!
The row and get back to the where you're at.
Wow!
And it's just a handy little thing.
And then on the other end is
it's a solid little tip, like a knitting tip. So it's a little knitting tip of the right size, 5mm or whatever, or the other side is a crochet hook. So it's a knitting or
clever.
crochet, but it gives you that little bit that you need if you need that pick-me-up, no matter what craft you're doing, or whether you're trying to block and there's something and you need to move the stitching around to have it lay flatter. This tool has been amazing because, like I said, it's a knitting hook or a crochet hook on either side. I think they're just called stitch grabbers, is the term for these, but I found these at Hobby Lobby. And I've just been packing this little thing with everything that I need, and I generally don't need much else. Now, you can have what my mom calls the notion bag, and that works just as well. I have a notion bag. I just have had so many bigger projects that my notion bag can't just fit in here with everything in there. So just having this with exactly what I need in there is enough for me.
And it sets your mind at ease.
I just have everything I need.
Yeah.
It's just so convenient.
Just makes it so much easier just to have what you need on hand whenever you need it. And it just makes it easier.
I don't know. I just like to pass those little things along, because even if like some of these tools are common knowledge to some of you, it wasn't to me. And I've been in this crafting and this side of the crafting world for over a decade, and I've always gone to this side of the crafting store even before my mom did, and I was always looking at the new tools, always trying to figure out what they were for or looking it up. And so for me, it's like, this might just be a new invention, or if it's already been going on for a while, I like to share the things that I find because I didn't know them. And so I'm guessing someone could benefit from it.
Definitely.
And even if this is just me, like just learning how to edge better for my knitting, even though I've been knitting for over 10 years, there's a benefit to learning how to do your craft better, like smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And so, and for anyone that wants to learn how to do their edging better for knitting, if you are like me and didn't know till beforehand, let me know, and I can try to find a video that explains a little bit better than I can. I could tell you what the abbreviations are in knitting format, where you can then find so like an SSK is a slip knit, like, you know what I'm saying, like the abbreviations of knitting, there is a term as to how to do what that is, but it's so long. It's like almost a whole sentence in an abbreviated form. It's like 8 different letters and numbers mixed in, and I just can't remember what all of them are in sequence. It's almost like a phone number. And but I could write them down for you, and then you could look them up how to do them. It's just in a knit form and a purl form, but it's the same instructions. But once you get it down and you know what side you're doing all the knitting on and what side you're kind of skipping, that's really all you're doing. Is at the on one side you knit the end stitches, like say it's the front the right side, you knit the end stitches, whereas on the other side you just slip it and then continue on, and you don't get the ball because you're only ever knitting up the side, where when you purl or you cross the row, the edge always has a bit of a beaded effect because it's always getting the sloppy side of the work and it's not tidy. But this eliminates that. It always keeps it tidy, and it always keeps it at a better gauge and tension for your work. So I would look it up. It's just called, it's like the edging stitch. It's really all it's called, but I'm guessing a lot of you probably already know that. But you benefit, and I don't ever want to just assume because I thought I knew and I didn't. And so I have been benefiting from learning from people. And my mom found, and I think this is amazing.
The scripture for this week is about women doing our thing, and I couldn't believe it. I when I read this the other day, I'm like, oh, I need to do that. I need to write that down for our video. So I did, and it is: all the women who were skilled in sewing and spinning prepared blue, purple, and scarlet thread and fine linen cloth. All the women who were willing used their skills to spin the goat hair into yarn. And that's found in Exodus 35, verses 25 and 26 in the New Living Translation. The women were skilled craftswomen in their time who were getting their skills together to make the temple curtains, and they already knew how to do this stuff, and they were masters at it. And so anyone who was willing, who was a master, was doing these things for the temple that was going to be made. And God had made sure that the Israelites who had escaped from Egypt were skilled craftsmen. And when he wanted the temple built and the things made, he told Moses, anybody who is willing is able to give of their time or of their things, because they had to make sure that all the things that they needed for the temple were brought so that the craftsmen could use it. And they got more than enough. But the women in this passage were able to sew, to spin, to make the blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and to make the fine linen. They were able to use their skills to spin the goat hair into yarn. And it was, when I saw that, it was just like, oh my goodness. People are still doing this stuff today, but they're making it in so many more colors and everything. But it's just amazing to me that even in Moses' day, and probably beyond that, these people were doing the things that we're still doing today. And I just thought that was amazing, and I wanted to bring it to your attention and, give us all a little bit of more confidence and encouragement in our crafts, because God is a creative God. And, the first 5 words of the Bible are, in the beginning, He created. So that to me is, He made sure that we all have some kind of creative outlet, and that's where we're at right now. Mm-hmm. We're doing videos for you, and showing you what we're doing, but I know that you guys are doing it too. So,
backstory on the story of these verses is that the Israelites were being enslaved by the Egyptians, and they had been enslaved for roughly 400 years. Yeah. And God heard their crying, had remembered His promise to Joseph, and called Moses out of the wilderness. Now, he had a history with the Egyptians because his stepdad had actually been Pharaoh of that time. But yes, his grandpa had been his grandpa, his step grandpa. Because Pharaoh's daughter had found him and had taken him in as his own, even though he was considered from the people that were traditionally the slaves. He was not treated as a slave in their house. And when God told him to leave the wilderness after having left Israel, because having left Egypt, Moses returned. And he was trying to do his will. Now, by the time he came back, the new Pharaoh was not the Pharaoh of
Joseph's time.
Oh, not Joseph's time, of Moses' time. Right. His step-grandpa, the one that he had left being the ruler, was not the one that he came back to. it was one of the sons. It was not the firstborn, but it was one of the sons in the line, and he did not know the history of the Israelites or Joseph or anything and the only reason why I say that is that traditionally, from what I understand of the way that the reign of pharaohs go, is that the eldest child is then trained to be the leader. So that's why daughters can be pharaohs as well. Is that it's like the eldest child. They had like an elder child mentality, and then it was kind of like the monarch of how people died and who would then take that place of the lineage of that family that was considered ordained enough to be that in that leadership role. It was the eldest child that was trained to know the history of the land. This guy, the Bible says, didn't know about Joseph, which implies that he was not the firstborn. Part of the reason that the last plague, when it went through, when it killed all the firstborns, Pharaoh didn't die.
Okay.
Because that did not imply age.
Right.
Firstborns being killed did not imply age. It wasn't just children that died. It was anyone that was a firstborn died.
Yeah.
Pharaoh did not die. He saw his son die, though.
Oh.
Which implies he would not know the history. Just some backstory there. The reason why I'm getting to that is because when they finally were able to take their exit, God had changed the hearts of the Egyptians to give of their best to the Israelites. Now, we're in the book of Exodus. They have now exited out of Egypt. It is now, they're on the other side of the Red Sea. We're good.
Okay.
Not everyone had a skill set, but the people that had the materials to make and offer up as their own tithe. So like the masters in the crafts were offering up their skills as their tithe, whereas the people that did not have the skill set and needed to leave room to the masters were giving of the splendor that they had gotten from the Egyptians to be able to offer and sacrificing as a tithe to make this temple. And traditionally, I'm going to say this traditionally, because we're at an age in history in which I don't think that any said craft is just limited to a gender.
Right. No.
This was just the tradition of the time that women knew how to do this.
Right.
Does not mean that men can't, or that men aren't good at making this.
Well,
I just want to finish my train of thought real quick.
Right.
I'm just saying that just because I don't want to discourage anybody or make it seem like a man can't be on this side of the community either and making his own videos, because some of my favorite creators are men creators, male creators on this side. Yeah. So I just letting you know that. At least I do have at least one top favorite that is a male creator on this side of the community. Just saying that just because I like to know, I like to have that out. But because the women of the time were considered the craftsmen of this type of thing, they did it when they were making the linens specifically. They were sewing and spinning and preparing blue, purple, and scarlet. Those were considered the royal colors.
Yeah. Yep.
And because in their time, they wanted to show reverence to God in his temple, while the men that were considered the top craftsmen for tents, because they were still in active motion, they had not found the promised land yet. They had to make a temple that could be erected and dismantled and carefully prepared to travel with. And so the men were that were considered top tier tent makers, because that was actually a thing back then, because they were in desert and actively pilgrimed land. They would, because like I said, this is like desert area that they're traveling, so they would not have the same skill set that maybe we, as knowing of pilgrimage, think of, because they would not have had the tools to have lumber to make a house. They would have to carry their linens and their flocks of animals that they could harvest wool from, not just meat, but wool from, to be able to make their craft. That's why they were so reliant on their cattle and stuff, because they would harvest everything from them, living and dead. And so this thing is to keep in mind. But they spun and they crafted and they created royal fabrics, and they were skillful enough to be able to make things out of what they had to be able to glorify God. And I think that that is something that I would like to do with anything that I'm good at, is to be able to have it be presented in a way that it is constantly pointing towards God. Where it's like, I only have this ability because God gave it to me.
True.
You know what I mean? And these masters, even the people that were not in the skill set that would have benefited making the temple, still had something to offer. And I like that, because they did it. They had the stuff out of their obedience of leaving. If they had been too scared to leave, they would have never been able to see the hearts of the Egyptians going out towards them, being like, have it all.
Take it.
You are the guys that literally created our city. That's what they were. They did everything. And they were the ultimate craftsmen, whereas the Israelites.
True.
Because they created everything. They were making buildings. They were making the dams. They were making
pyramids.
I don't know if the pyramids were of that time, but I mean, they could have been. I don't know Egyptian history as well as I know my biblical history. Right. But I'm just saying, it's just so cool, because I'm not just, granted, the master craftsman and this and everything, and God being able to be like, hey, you, come on, let's go. But
they were willing.
But they were willing. But I'm just saying, everyone had a spot.
Yeah.
And while those people were away, they were able to keep down the forts and keep down the homes while these people were being allowed to go do and glorify God. But those people would not have been able to do their part had the other people that had gotten the goods and gotten the materials and were able to offer them that time were not willing to do theirs. It was a group effort. And I really just... There's some parts of the Bible that make my head tilt, but this one was more of like this is really cool, that even though that they were in the midst of the desert, they worked together in a way that would glorify God. Yeah. It just is really cool.
It is.
And it was able to showcase that everyone, no matter where you are or what you do, God is always going to be able to use your skill set to work. Like, who would have thought that in the desert they were going to be using their skill sets like this?
It's awesome.
You know what I mean? Like, besides maybe making clothes. No, they were making a building that could be moved. Because
they didn't have to make clothes at that point for 40 years. None of their clothes,
supplies ever ran out.
Or their shoes or nothing wore out ever.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just like sometimes the background to the story, and I know I kind of rambled on there for a minute, but there's more to these stories than just the 2 or 3 verses that we ever give you. And if you ever feel that we are taking things out of interpretation, please realize that this is what these verses are speaking to us. We encourage you to take the time to look into this stuff for yourself.
And I always put the scripture into the description area so that you can look it up yourself.
Yep, and we like to use the New Living Translation, the NLT translation. We do it because it speaks to us, but be more than welcome to look up other translations. Having more than one translation allows you to see it through the different cultural eyes of the time periods, because you have like a NIV version that is much more contemporary and modern, and it is done much more in our individualistic point of view of the Western world, whereas there are other translations that are much more sensitive to how the Greek and the Hebrew translators were trying to translate, and was much more in the Eastern eyes of what the time period would have possibly been trying to say. And it's very interesting to be able to take it from those views, because it is more original to the culture in which these stories are coming from, and sometimes we can interpret things wrong. So I like to just, when it's a story like this, I like to take the time to talk about it, what I know about it. I'm no theologian, I'm no scholar, but we've been reading the Bible for a long time, and it's just fun to be able to talk about their stories. We always love talking, and I just realized how long we've been talking for, though.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and so we're going to have to stop, otherwise this video is going to take forever to load, and I'm sorry about that. But we get caught up sometimes in talking to you guys, because like I said in the beginning of this video, we don't have a lot of people in our corner. We have friends that do this with us, but they're very few compared to how many friends we feel like we're making now, making these videos and having you guys spend time with us and talk to us in the comments. We love them.
Yes.
And, as long as there's no hate, we have...
Which there hasn't been.
Not
we
that
are very blessed with you guys.
Not saying that there has been, but I'm just saying we're not here to cause drama.
No.
And, if any of this is not in your belief system or comfort level, please understand that we're not trying to be insensitive or judgmental or of any sort of nature. We leave that stuff up to God. So
we just
at any
want to
point,
encourage.
we just want to encourage.
That's our heart.
Yes, but just, we're not here to be God.
No.
And we're not here to say that you have to follow in our beliefs.
No.
But this is what we get out of it, and we just would like to share it with you in the way and the time that we have. So we love you all. We thank you for spending time with us today, and as always, we hope that you stitch your way
to mental health.